Gold.
If you bought gold in 2026, you would have been on an absolute wild ride. In January, we saw a huge rally, sending gold skyrocketing to an all-time high of $5,586. Retail investors were rushing to buy gold at Costco's. Social media was flooded with $6,000 as the new price target for gold. Everybody was convinced the only way was up. But then, guess what? The floor fell out. By June 2026, gold had a crazy correction. It was a staggering 29% drop, bottoming out at $3,962. And that was nearly $1,600 per ounce wiped off the price in just 4 months. So where does that leave us as we head into the final quarter of 2026? Yes, crazy, I know, we are moving quick and the final quarter is approached. Is the bull market over, or was this an ultimate trap designed to shake out the weak hands before the real rally begins? Welcome back to my channel, everybody. Today we're going to be tearing apart the conventional wisdom surrounding the gold market. I'm going to be giving you a professional, unvarnished look at gold in Q4 2026. We're going to be covering 5 critical areas. First, we're going to be looking at the major banks and what they're actually doing behind closed doors. Secondly, I'm going to be breaking down macroeconomic reality of the new Federal Reserve under Kevin Warsh. Third, the geopolitical chessboard that seems to be literally 4D at the moment, from the Strait of Hormuz to the BRICS de-dollarization agenda. Fourth, we're going to be looking at the supply and demand dynamics that nobody is talking about. And finally, the upcoming US midterm elections. This could be the catalyst for change and everything around it. So let's get straight into it. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth about institutional forecasts. During the whole January mania, when gold was trading above $5,000, the banks were falling over themselves. They were issuing sky-high price targets. And in my weekly lessons, we did this too. We was talking about where's it going, where the markets are going to look like. Bank of America called $6,000 by the end of the year. JPMorgan projected $6,300, but Goldman Sachs turned around and said $5,400. Retail traders ate it up. They saw these numbers and piled in at the top. But quietly behind the scenes, those targets have been aggressively revised downwards. Let's start with Goldman Sachs. They have cut their year-end target to $4,900. That's a $500 haircut. Bank of America, they slashed theirs by 14% to an average of $4,360. JPMorgan cut their Q4 target by a massive 25%, down to $4,500. And UBS, whilst overall they're still bullish long-term, is warning that a pullback to $3,850 is entirely possible before any recovery. Now here's what really matters. These revisions didn't happen because the structural case for gold is broken. They happened because one variable changed: the Federal Reserve. Every single one of these banks cited the same reason for cutting their targets: a more hawkish Fed than anybody expected. But pay attention to what Goldman said alongside their revision. They said, and I quote, "Emerging market central bank diversification remains the anchor of our $4,900 forecast." Now, that tells you the structural bid is still there. The long-term buyers haven't left. What's changed is the short-term macro headwind. And that's what I want my viewers to understand. So let's look at Kevin Warsh. He took over as Fed chair in early 2026. And he has completely reset market expectations. The market had priced in aggressive rate cuts. Instead, the Fed has held rates steadily for 5 consecutive meetings at the 3.5% to 3.75% range. 3 FOMC members dissented at the July meeting, pushing for a hike. And now the SME FedWatch tool is pricing in an 82% probability of a rate hike by September. Now, this is the macroeconomic reality that retail investors are ignoring. Higher interest rate means higher real yields on US Treasuries. Now, the 10-year Treasury note is yielding 4.7% right now. The 30-year is above 5.2%. When you can get a guaranteed 4.7% from the safest asset on the planet, the opportunity cost of holding a non-yielding asset like gold goes up dramatically. Capital flows where it's treated the best, and right now, risk-free yield is competing heavily with gold. And this is ultimately why we saw that 29% correction. The rate cut narrative collapsed and gold had to reprice. But here's where it gets interesting. The inflation story isn't over. It's evolving. While headline CPI cooled to 3.5% in June, down from 4.2% in May, core prices are being driven up by a factor most people aren't watching, and that is AI infrastructure spending. The Fed governor Lisa Cook recently gave a speech where she explicitly called this out, and I found it pretty interesting. She said, and I quote, "Rising core goods prices underscore the fact that the recent acceleration in inflation is not only an energy price story." So she uncovered and pointed out there to a massive capital expenditure on chips, high-tech equipment, software, and utilities driven by the AI build-out. So ultimately, we have a paradox. Inflation is cooling on the headline number, but sticky underneath. The Fed can't cut rates because core inflation won't cooperate. But these also can't hike too aggressively because the economy is showing signs of cooling. This is that tightrope walk that defines Q4 26 for gold. If the Fed hikes in September, expect a short-term dip. If they hold and signal patient, gold could ultimately rally. Now, whilst we've got all that going on, let's just throw into the mix there the geopolitical wildcard, the Middle East. In February, the US and Israel carried out joint military operation against Iran. And this was the moment that gold lost its safe haven status temporarily, because surging oil prices fed directly into inflation fears, which strengthened the case for rate hikes. It was counterintuitive. War usually sends gold higher. But this time, the inflation transmission, it flipped the script. Since then, we've seen multiple ceasefires. We've seen a fragile 60-day ceasefire signed in June. And as of this week, the US, Iran, and Oman appear to be edging closer again to an interim agreement to fully open the Strait of Hormuz. Do I believe it? I don't really think so. But why does this matter for gold? Because oil is the primary driver of inflation expectation. If the Hormuz deal holds and Brent crude stabilizes below $80, inflation will then ultimately, the expectations behind this is going to drop. And this ultimately gives the Fed breathing room to pause permanently or even signal cuts for early 2027. And this is the exact scenario where gold resumes to be its structural bull market. But there's a second geopolitical layer that most analysts are underestimating. The BRICS nation, believe it or not, has started to stir back up again and held their 2026 summit. And it accelerated discussions on alternative payment systems. They are actively building financial infrastructure that bypasses the SWIFT system, and it reduces ultimately the reliance on the US dollar. Let's just put a spanner in the works there. And if they want to reduce the reliance on the US dollar, guess what the anchor's going to be for that transition? Physical gold. The US dollar index is down nearly 10% since its 2025 highs. It's trading around 99 to 100, and it's failed to break its multi-year downtrend resistance this year. A weaker dollar is structurally bullish for gold because gold is priced in dollars. For every 1% decline in the DXY historically, this correlates with a 0.5% to a 1% rise in gold. This is a slow burning tailwind that will support prices through Q4 going into 2027. So let's look at who is actively buying gold right now. If retail traders are getting shaken out, who is stepping in? Let me show you the divergence that tells the real story. US gold-backed ETFs saw net outflows of 61 tons in the first half of 2026. North American retail investors panicked and they sold. But Asian gold ETFs had their strongest first half ever, pulling in over $12 billion. And then on top of that, we have the central banks. Central banks bought 289 tons of gold in Q2 alone. That's a 62% year-over-year increase and the biggest quarterly addition since Q4 2024. This is absolutely huge for central banks. The annualized pace is approximately 700 tons for 2026. And what's really strange is it's not your usual suspects of being China and Russia. Looking at the wider central bank buyers, it's countries like Guatemala, Indonesia, and Malaysia. They're entering the gold market for the first time. And guess what? Poland was the largest monthly buyer in June. The People's Bank of China added 15 tons in June alone, their largest purchase since October. And looking into research by BNY Mellon, 82% of central banks now hold physical gold. That number was below 70% just 5 years ago. On the supply side, mine production rose slightly to 966 tons in Q2, up slightly from 948 tons a year earlier. But recycled supply actually fell from 374 tons in Q1 to 326 tons in Q2. So what does that tell us? People who already own gold are not selling it. They're holding. Meanwhile, bars and coin demand dropped to 307 tons from over 400 tons in the prior quarter. That to me shows me that this is a retail shakeout. The weak hands are gone and the book is clean. And historically, when positions like this are washed out, the next move is faster and more violent than anybody expects. So all of these catalysts, they bring us to Q4, and the most overlooked catalyst that's not really been spoken about in 2026, which is the US midterm elections. Historically, the fourth quarter is the strongest seasonal window for gold. September alone averages a 2.3% monthly gain over the past decade. And more importantly, since 1968, gold has averaged an 11% gain during midterm election years. And you're probably wondering why. Because markets hate uncertainty, but gold thrives on it. With control of the Senate hanging in balance currently, the political uncertainty in November is going to be immense. Democrats need to flip 4 seats to take control. Multiple races are within the margin of error. If we see a split Congress, it becomes harder to pass sweeping fiscal policies. That means that we have gridlock in Washington, and that often leads to, guess what, a weaker dollar. And a weaker dollar is rocket fuel for gold. Furthermore, any election disputes or prolonged uncertainty will drive safe haven flows directly into gold against the dollar. Another factor to this is there's also the year-end reserve rebalancing effect. Central banks and sovereign wealth funds typically increase their gold allocation in Q4 as they close their fiscal years. Combined with returning ETF demand as prices stabilize, we've also got potential additional Fed dovishness. All of these forces align bullishly for the October through to the December window, and it's something that we just want to be cautious of. So what is the realistic outlook for gold against the dollar by the end of 2026? I've been thinking about this question a lot, and I think the easiest way to do this is to give 3 scenarios with probabilities. And I know my weekly lesson students are all going to be holding me to account on this, so let me give this my best shot. The base case, which I assign a 50% probability to, is a grinding recovery towards $4,600 to $4,700. This requires the Fed to hold rates steady. Central banks must continue to buy, and the Hormuz deal must stick. It's a hard one with the Hormuz deal, isn't it? The bull case for gold, I would put a 25% probability. Targets of $5,000 to $5,200. Now, this will require the Fed to start signaling that they're going to cut. A confirmed peace deal as well would be required in the Middle East, and a breakout above the 4,540 resistance before that October. If this happens before October, then we could see that 5,000 to 5,200 level. Now, I put the bear case also at a 25% probability because it sees gold retesting that 3,800 level. This happens if the Fed hikes in September. The dollar will then surge off the back of that. And then the 9,600 sort of support level fails, if this happens, we could see the bear case. We could then see it retesting around 3,800. I think we have a critical level as well, which will help guide those probabilities, which is the levels to watch. And I think $4,540 is one of those. This was the June pivot to go higher. If gold can clear that hurdle by October, the path opens up to $5,000 again. But if the 3,960 level breaks on a weekly close, the bullish thesis is dead, full stop. Don't buy the hype for $6,000 an ounce on gold for this year. The maths doesn't support it at its current levels, and this would ultimately require over a 40% rally in 5 months, something factually gold has never done from a mid-year base in modern history. I think it's important for us to understand and trade the reality. We've got a hawkish Fed, sticky inflation, institutional accumulation, and a Q4 seasonal tailwind. Some of the insights that we need to watch is we need to watch for that September FOMC meeting. That is the next major catalyst for gold. If they hike, buy the dips towards 3,850 to 3,960. If they hold and sound dovish, ride the momentum all the way down towards 4,500 and potentially beyond. And I think it's important, if you want to survive this market, you have to stop following the herd. Stop listening to the clickbait headlines promising that $6,000 by Christmas. Start tracking the smart money the central banks are buying and the institutions that are positioning themselves for Q4. The question is, are you? If you found this analysis valuable, hit the like button and subscribe for more unvarnished market truths. And if you want to take our free traders assessment, then make sure we click the link pinned in the comments and in the description, and it will tell you for free where you are in your trading career. Drop a comment below. Are you buying a dip or are you staying in cash? I read every single one, and I'll see you in the next video.